I thought it was 50-50. We don't struggle with the idea that God is God. We know that. We know this is his world. We know we are his creation. We know he rules. We know he is sovereign. That's not where the tension is. The tension shows up somewhere else. It shows up in how we respond when his will doesn't look like what we would have chosen. Because in those moments, something in us begins to move. We may not say it out loud, but we feel it. We want to understand why. We want an explanation. We want it to make sense. We want to know that what is happening is fair. We want some part of it to align with what we expected, or at least what we hoped God would do. And when it doesn't, we feel it. Resistance, hesitation, that quiet pushback inside. Not because we don't know he is God, but because we don't fully understand what that means for us. Scripture does not leave that unclear. Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word. Luke chapter 1, verse 38. Mary is told something that will change her life in ways she cannot control, cannot fully understand, and cannot explain to others. She could have asked for more. She could have questioned how this would unfold, hesitated, or tried to make sense of it before accepting it. But she doesn't. She hears and submits, not because she understands everything, but because she understands her place before God. And then there is Nebuchadnezzar, a man who had power, authority, and control over an entire kingdom, a man who was used to being obeyed. And yet, when he is brought face to face with the reality of who God is, his response is unmistakable. At the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my reason returned to me, and I blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are accounted as nothing, and he does according to his will among the host of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand or say to him, "What have you done?" Daniel chapter 4, verses 34 through 35. He doesn't argue. He doesn't demand answers. He doesn't try to reclaim control. He recognizes who God is, and in that moment, everything else finds its place. Both of these moments reveal something we cannot ignore. When God speaks, when God acts, when his will presses into our lives, the question is not whether we understand it. The question is how we respond to it. Because if we are honest, we don't always respond like this. We say God is in control, but when his control leads somewhere we would not choose, we often react as if something is off, as if something should be different, as if in some way our expectations should factor into the outcome. We don't say it that way, but we feel it. And that reveals something, not about what we know, but about how we are relating to him. Somewhere along the way, many of us have quietly carried an assumption, not spoken, not examined, but present, that there is some level of shared influence, that our obedience, our effort, our prayers, our decisions should shape how things unfold in a way that makes sense to us. Not fully in control, but not entirely without influence either. Something like 50-50. We wouldn't say it that way, but our reactions often do. And this is where the truth presses in. This is God's world, not ours. We are his creation, not his partners in control. He does not step into our framework, we live within his. He does not answer to us. He does not negotiate with us. He does not adjust his will to align with what we would prefer. But as we will see later in this series, there are moments when he chooses to act in response to our prayers, not because he must, but because it pleases him to do so. This is not negotiation. This is not shared control. This is the kindness of a sovereign God who invites us to come to him, and that is an amazing gift. But still, he alone is God. And in a kingdom, the king determines, and the subjects respond. This is what 100-0 means. Not that we do nothing, but that we do not share control. We are not managing outcomes alongside him. We are responding to the one who already holds them. That response is not forced, it is invited. The same God who rules without challenge is the one who invites us to trust him within that rule, to follow, to yield, to align our hearts with what we already know is true, not just in what we say, but in how we live when his will confronts ours. And this is where we need to slow down. Scripture does not just reveal that God is sovereign, it also reveals something about us. There is a difference between bringing our questions before God and placing ourselves in a position where we begin to measure Him. There is a line we can cross, not when we feel tension, not when we don't understand, but when we move from trust into quiet judgment, when we begin expecting God to answer to us. Even Job, who knew the sovereignty of God, found himself pressing for answers, trying to make sense of what did not align with his understanding, until God reminded him where that line was, not to silence him, but to reorient him. There are just some things a created being cannot do before a sovereign God. We do not put him on trial. We do not demand that he defend himself. We do not accuse him because his actions do not fit our expectations. A sovereign God is not evaluated by us. He is trusted. He gets the benefit of the doubt from us, even when we do not understand what he is doing. That does not remove the tension. It doesn't answer every question. It doesn't resolve every situation, but it clarifies something we often miss. Faith is not agreement with outcomes. It is trust in the one who rules, even when those outcomes do not align with what we would choose. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. We don't struggle because we don't know God is in control. We struggle because we don't always like what his control looks like. And this is where the invitation becomes clear. Not to figure everything out, not to receive explanations for every outcome, but to come to the place where our response begins to match what we know, where we can say, not just in words, but in truth, "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." Luke chapter 1, verse 38. And where we can recognize, without resistance, he does according to his will, and none can stay his hand or say to him, "What have you done?" Daniel chapter 4, verse 35. This is not easy, but it is clear. As we sit with this today, we take a moment to reflect on where this tension is showing up in our own lives. Where has God's will unfolded in a way we would not have chosen? Where have we felt the pull to question, to resist, or to hold on to our own expectations? And where might we be invited to move from knowing that God is in control to responding like it is true? If you are willing, share your reflections or questions in the comments so we can learn and walk this journey together.